Hello, everybody, and welcome to Decoding the WSL, the podcast dedicated to the stats and facts in the WSL. I'm your host, Sam Biccarinio, back after a little break, but we're here for your Game Week 20 review. I'm not on my own. I've got two of the regulars alongside me, sporting, obviously, one of the many Arsenal shirts. It's Izzy Duddy. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling good. I was at the Emirates yesterday, so I couldn't not wear it. Buzzing after that.
Yeah, so for context, we're recording this the day after Arsenal 2, Lyon 1. I watched it from home because I had other football to also watch as well, and Arsenal was miles away from me. But it was enjoyable nonetheless. Someone else who I think might have enjoyed yesterday's result is Tom Maher. You're grinning ear to ear.
Yeah, I was there too. It was very interesting game, very exciting game. A game kind of befitting that the stakes, as much as there was a few mistakes in that match. But yeah, I enjoyed it though. It's. I mean, both Champions League semi-finals have been really interesting, but it's not about the Champions League today. It's about the WSL.
Exactly, it is. As much as the Champions League, like you say, was good, I was very surprised that Bayern didn't get beat by Barca, and just relieved that Arsenal actually don't have to go and win away in Lyon again.
In fairness, I said 2-1 at the Emirates Stadium yesterday, but the only witnesses to that were my sister and my mum, and also I say 2-1 for literally every game. But I was right.
As long as it's right, that's fine. There were, in fact, you would have been wrong this week. I can't remember exactly what you predicted, Izzy, but there were no 2-1s this week. So 0% success rate for you, I guess. A little roundup of what happened this weekend. Yama had a sheeter on Saturday, losing in the air to Madison Haley as the Americans scored the winner to give Brighton their first ever home win against City. On Sunday, in the game at Goodison, was certainly one for the away fans. The second half dominance in Chelsea proved too much for Everton. Never mind poking the bear, the Foxes poked the Lionesses, the home side coming back from behind to win 5-1 in the end. It was stalemate at Spurs despite the home team's best efforts, and another game with no winner for Skinner. Final WSL game on Sunday saw West Ham win at Liverpool thanks to a Kapok's own goal. We're also going to preview Wednesday's game in this pod just because the preview show won't go out before the Arsenal-Leicester game on Wednesdays. We're going to have a little look at that. And we're also going to take a moment to check out what's happening in WSL2 because although we are predominantly a WSL podcast, obviously I think it's definitely worth noting. So if you don't know what's going on, obviously stick around close to the end and we'll take a look at that. But we're going to start with Saturday's game. Brighton 3, Manchester City 2, a result that I don't think many people, myself included, saw coming. City took the lead early on through Caroline, but Brighton took the lead back with a goal either side of half-time through Madison Haley and Kika Seke. Haley got her second of the game and Brighton's third when she won a header beating Yamashita in the air. And then Bunny Shaw got a consolation late on, which is not a sentence that I think has been uttered many times before. Tom, City really dominated like the first spell of this game. I watched about the first 10 minutes of it. And yeah, I just assumed that City were going to ramp on and get like a 6-0 win because they were so on top.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Sam. I thought the same. I mean, even within the first couple of passes, Moeka Minami plays the ball straight to Bunny Shaw almost from kickoff, and Dozie actually makes a brilliant save to stop City taking that early lead. But it was only kind of a stay of execution, really. It should have been a warning that they didn't heed. Or it was a warning that they didn't heed. I think City were so impressive in those early stages, that a kind of suffocating early press on Brighton. I think City obviously know better than most about trying to play out, and Brighton play in quite a similar, or want to have aspirations to play in a similar way to Manchester City. And they obviously want to play out from the back. And I think City obviously knew that coming into the game. And for that first goal, I tried to break it down as much as I can because I wanted to explain why the press was so effective for that first goal for City. So Brighton players, the defenders, are very deep, and the two centre-backs are split either side of Ndozi on the touchline, essentially, or close to the touchline. And then Charlie Rule on the far side of the pitch is all the way up, like pushing up to give them another dimension. obviously, they're trying to give options, but City do so well to try and make sure that they can try isolate Hayes and Rule and kind of make Brighton start their build-up on the right-hand side of the pitch. Ioba Fujino is on Minami, Kasparai is pushing up on Venegas, Carolyn supporting centrally on Simmons, and just making sure that right side, there's no passing options on that right side. And Bunny Shaw runs from the left side towards Ndozi, so forcing Ndozi onto a weaker left foot to make a pass into that right area where that they've basically cut off all oxygen for that Brighton backline in that area of the pitch. And then sure enough, she hits it with her weaker foot, and Maisie Simons gets the ball. She takes one touch and Carolyn's already all over her. And, when she plays that ball then into Ioba Fujino, and Ioba Fujino looks to cross into the box, suddenly you've got 5 City players in the box and 4 Brighton players from that, Brighton's own build up. And it was really, that's what they've done so well all season. But I thought that was so interesting. And obviously then they play the ball into the box, and Caitlin Hayes has a moment to forget. I think she didn't realize that she had more time, and kind of rushes the clearance, and it goes to Carolyn. It's a fantastic finish from Carolyn as well. And I think that was kind of the story of the game, because City should have scored more. They should have probably been 3-0 up before Brighton get that goal back through Madison Haley. But I think Brighton did so well to regroup, and they stopped kind of doing so much of the build-up from the back. They started playing it direct, playing those long balls to Madison Haley and Kiko Seka, who both did really well. Madison Haley won 10 duels in this game. That's double the amount of the next highest person to win of duels won. And, they really dominated that battle with the City backline and got themselves up the pitch directly. And I think that's just such a emblematic of the evolution of this side under Dario Vidosic. And yeah, so Madison Haley was exceptional. Kiko Seke was. Obviously, Fran Kirby was her timeless best. And, Caitlin Hayes, after that early mistake, ends up making 19 defensive contributions, 7 more than the next highest player. So I think Brighton did so well to come back into a game that they should have been dead and buried in.
Yeah, it was definitely one that, like I said, from 10 minutes in, I just sort of thought, City can absolutely run riot here. But yeah, I had a look at the stats after. I mean, City got about 0.5 XG more than Brighton did. They had almost twice as many shots, but it's when you looked at the shots on target that you could really see the difference. 7 shots on target for Brighton, only 6 for Man City. 3.7 XG on target for Brighton, 2.2 for Man City, so about 1.5 more. And Madison Haley getting all 4 of her shots on target. Obviously, she scored 2 goals, but she turned 1.36 XG of shots into 2.53 XG on target, which, yeah, I mean, we're waiting until after the Arsenal-Leicester game on Wednesday to bat of our team of the week, but I think we can probably make a safe bet that Madison Haley is going to be a part of it. But Izzy, obviously, Brighton came back, from sort of late in the first half and through the second half as well, but I don't know how much of it was them being good or is it City being bad?
The City midfield just looked lethargic, and I think when you're looking at a team which has arguably some of the best midfielders in the world, like in their squad, I really noticed that Viv Miedema just wasn't there. And I think you look at all the games where City have won by tons. I mean, we know Miedema is just like the best, but we speak so much about Bunny Shaw, we speak so much about, Yui Hasegawa and stuff, but actually Miedema's turning, she's that attacking midfielder that's kind of transitioning and sometimes dropping back. And I think without her, they really sometimes struggle. And I was just looking through sort of some of Miedema's stats. I mean, of all midfielders in the WSL, she has the highest shot count. So she's actually second overall, only to Bunny Shaw. She's got the 6th most key passes for any midfielder, and she's the 10th most successful dribbles. So she's actually really creating all those opportunities. And when she's gone, she didn't play. I think there was a few other games where they maybe got sort of like a 1 goal like advantage on teams that they should have been winning sort of at least 3 goals by. And I think when you kind of combine that with Brighton sort of sussing them out and being able to play over that midfield, like there was just nothing they could do. They couldn't kind of play the City way. And then that kind of cancels out Bunny Shaw, it cancels out Yuri Hasegawa because there's no one linking up that midfield. And obviously Grace Clinton was playing. She's been out of minutes. She hasn't kind of necessarily found her feet yet in the City team. So I thought that was quite interesting to sort of look at. And yeah, I think that's something they really need to concentrate on because they've been so dominant. But again, you can't have a team that relies on sort of one player to kind of connect the dots. Especially when you've got like someone like Bunny Shaw up front. Like you need several people who can kind of be that holding behind her just to, you know, feed her the ball and let her do what she does best.
Yeah, and I think what you say about Miedemar being creative as well, but she's got the output at the other end. She's got 10 goals already this season, third most in the league. I think because you see Kirsty Hansen's on 12, and that's such a major thing because she's at a bottom half side, and Bunny Shaw's already on 18 with a couple of games to go. But last season's top goal scorer got 12, and Viv Miedemar is already on 10 from midfield, and she's got 15 goal involvements because she's got 5 assists alongside those 10 goals. The top players for goal involvements last year, Turland and Asay, got 15, so she's already matched that from last season. So I think some of the other strikers in the league, mainly Shaw and Hansen, sort of almost dull down the accomplishment of Viv Miedemar this season, but it's sort of sometimes hard to forget that she is a fantastic player and she's still getting that output, even though she's in a bit of a different system than she used to be at Arsenal, for example, playing a different position. But who knows where they'll be next season. There's been rumours circulating on social media today that McCabe and Mead might be heading up to Man City. So I think any non-Man City fan watching that will be thinking, God, I hope not. But anyway, it'd be interesting to see if the title race is back on from here. I think most people, myself included, didn't really expect Man City to drop any points in their final few games and they'd win the league, with games to spare. But Brighton beating them in this game actually gives Arsenal a bit of hope. I was looking earlier on sort of Opta's, as much as I hate this phrase, Opta's supercomputer. They're giving Arsenal about a 4.8% chance now of winning the WSL. Obviously, it means Man City have to drop points, and it means Arsenal need to be pretty much perfect in winning every game. So we'll have to see how it goes. I do think it's basically still Man City's title, but it's just that little bit of hope. Sometimes it's the hope that gets you. Let's move on to Sunday's games. Firstly, let's start with Everton 1, Chelsea 4. Both teams scoring in the first 10 minutes of this one. Sam Kerr's opener cancelled out by Yuka Mimiki's equaliser. Then second half goals again from Sam Kerr, followed by Ellie Carpenter and Erin Cuthbert, sealed all 3 points for Chelsea. And I didn't actually get to catch any of this game, but having a look at the stats, it felt like an absolute fair result. Chelsea had about 3 XG, Everton had about 1. 27 shots to 4 for Chelsea, 2.3 expected goals and tied to 0.5. And yeah, basically Chelsea just dominant. And Sam Kerr now has 6 goal involvements in her 4 games since returning from the Asian Cup. So she's really, I mean, we know how much of a fantastic player Sam Kerr is, but when Chelsea have had injuries, players like Mario Ramirez and some of their forward players, actually having someone like Sam Kerr back is meaning that it's just business as usual.
Yeah, I think sometimes, especially with big players like Sam Kerr, we kind of maybe overestimate kind of what they can do coming back from injury, and we sort of just expect them to bounce back to normal. But actually there's been a lot of people saying like, Sam Kerr's just not the same player she was before her injury. And obviously it was a long and grueling injury. And sometimes I do think like having those players go away to a cup where they can kind of be a bit more back in sort of a home environment, leading a team and just like getting a few goals in, it can just do wonders for a player's confidence and kind of quieten those sort of critics' voices. And yeah, I think it helps that Chelsea have been very short in their sort of front line with Aggie Beaver-Jones is still out and things like that. So I think, Kerr is able to kind of come back into that team a bit more regularly, whereas we know sort of earlier games in this season when she was back, she wasn't necessarily getting that game time. So I do think, like you say, the Asian Cup was really key for her to just kind of, for herself, and also maybe a bit of a message to Sonia Bompastor, like, look, I'm back, just put me in the team. And now it's, the fruits of labour are coming for her, and clearly she should have had a hat-trick.
Yeah, Sonia Bompastor asking for goal line technology after the game, and to be honest, I think it's fair enough. I think that most teams in the WSL now are playing at stadiums where goal line technology is, or some of the sort of facilities, the cameras and stuff like that is sort of half there already. Obviously, it's not quite as used to the same.
We don't need goal line technology. We just need Sonia with her phone at the end of every press conference, just like breaking it down for you. Yeah. Just like goal, not goal, goal.
That'll do. Well, they actually do, because I think this like almost like VAR light is a really good way that we can actually get some sort of technology into the women's game without it being too expensive. Because I know, so I play field hockey, and in the international game, you get this like kind of like VAR where basically you get someone sat in a booth somewhere with all the camera angles that are from TV, but that's all they've got, and they can then try and see if they can find something, if someone's made a foul or not, or if the ball has crossed the line or whatever it is. And 90% of the time, it's quite easy to tell just from a replay that the umpire might have missed in play. And I think that sort of thing, the women's game doesn't necessarily have the thousands and thousands of pounds it costs to run a VAR every game, but to be able to do something like that surely is a bit of a halfway house. But who knows? I'm just a guy with a mic. Tom, Chelsea are now 5 points ahead of Arsenal. Arsenal have obviously got 3 games in hand, but when I was having a look at Opta earlier, I saw that it's about a 1 in 4 chance now for Chelsea to be managing to get second place. We know with result from Man United that we'll come to that they're probably almost certainly going to finish at least third, which would be the sort of Champions League qualification, but finishing second's a little bit further down the line. Do you think that's going to be doable now? Or because Chelsea, I think, should be picking up maximum points in the last few games.
Yeah, I think it's certainly doable. I just think they're just completely dependent on what Arsenal do, really. Obviously, they need to win their games to keep themselves in it, but it just depends on how well Arsenal can manage those trips in the WSL, especially the Aston Villa Brighton games feel very pivotal, and Everton as well, just in that kind of, like, I think there's like 3 days in between each of them. So that's going to be really pivotal to how this all plays out. I think obviously Man United now, it's out of their hands. Even if they beat Chelsea next week, Chelsea will still be finished second with a win on the final day. So, I think I'd be feeling pretty good about things as a Chelsea fan. I think that, obviously, like Izzy said, it was so nice to see Sam Kerr scoring again. And, did we mention that she's now level with Fran Kirby for most WSL goals for a Chelsea, which is fantastic statistics. She had some lovely things to say about Fran Kirby post-match as well. Very classy post-match interview she gave. But I think, we know what Chelsea are like. At the end of the season as well, especially domestically, they kind of lock in and, they just get things done a lot of the time. So I think they'll be fine. Probably will finish third. They probably will finish third. But, you never know. Arsenal struggled at this stage of the season last season. I think maybe a little bit of attention might be now with United's result yesterday, which we'll obviously get onto. A little bit of attention might be turning to the FA Cup, as much as they'll never admit it. I think they might be kind of focusing on that a touch, and some Wembley silverware.
That's the sort of next piece of silverware they're going to have their eyes on. So why not try and focus on that and put your all to that? Because like you say, they might finish second, but it's depending on what Arsenal do, but they can't control that. They can control they're going to finish third and see where they can go from there. Let's move on to LCL 5, Leicester 1. This one was at the same time on Sunday. Shannon O'Brien giving the visitors the lead in this one. And then goals from Corrales and Izzy Goodwin put London City Lionesses in front before half time. They then cemented it in the second half. 3 more goals from Rylo Guerrero and Godfrey. meant that it was 5-1 by the end of the day. There's quite a few firsts for London City Lionesses players in this one. I was very happy with Lucia Corrales because I put her in my team this week because I needed someone cheap. And I thought, she's playing, she's a visionary, she'll do. Wasn't expecting that she was going to get her first WSL assist and her first goal in any competition for London City Lionesses. So that was very nice to see. Grascioro got her first London City Lionesses goal. It was also her first goal since the Euro 2025 quarterfinal, which surprised me for a player of her. I know she's not a goal scorer by trade, but for a player of her quality, I thought she'd have got on the score sheet before then. And then Malu Rylov, a January signing, getting her first goal in any competition since joining the club. And yeah, again, looking at the stats for this, it seemed like a London City Lionesses win was about right. They had about 2/3 of the possession. They completed more than double the number of passes, 19 shots to 3. The Shannon O'Brien finish being the main XG for Leicester, 2.85 for LCL versus 0.6 for Leicester, 10 shots on target to 2, and 5.57 expected goals on target for London City Lionesses. And only scoring 5 goals and 5.57 XG on target means that statistically, Liv Clark actually had a better game than Elena Lette, which you probably don't find very often in a 5-1 loss. But yeah, London City Lionesses scored more goals than Leicester had shots in this game, which I think tells a story of just how dominant it was. And Izzy, that then this result basically puts Leicester into that 12th place. I think the writing was on the wall for a while, but Leicester now need to win all 3 games, including the one against Arsenal on Wednesday, to not be finishing 12th. But they'll almost certainly be playing the side third in WSL2. And we'll come to later a little bit about who that might be, but we know it's going to be one of either Charlton, Birmingham or Palace. Historically, the WSL teams have done very well against WSL2 teams and WSL Championship teams. You think like FA Cup and League Cup fixtures, but the tide might be turning a bit. I know Palace got a good win against Leicester earlier in the season, and yeah, whether it's them, Charlton or Birmingham, how do you think the game's going to go? Because Leicester are definitely going to be the away team.
Yeah, I think Leicester this season is a very sad story, actually. Yeah, I mean, there's, obviously statistically there's a chance they can stay up, but they're going down. And I do think that they will lose against the WSL2 side, just because I think I don't know too much about the WSL2, but from what I have seen, the teams that are fighting to be promoted, they seem to sort of have a dressing room culture. They have a sort of way of and style of playing, and they have a zip about them. And I have not seen that, I don't think, once from Leicester this season, which is a shame, because I do still think there's a lot of players in that team that deserve their flowers, but I don't see any kind of motivation to want to win, and I don't necessarily hand that all down to the players or even the manager. Obviously the club's in a bad financial position, and that's kind of trickled down to the women's team, as it usually does. But I think it's really sad, and I do think they will go down and go to that playoff place, and unfortunately go back down to the WSL2, which is a real shame. But I mean, also, London City Lionesses, not to take anything away from their performance, I mean, clearly it was a really great win, and they sort of found their own form, which is another nice side to sort of the story, when they've been a kind of mixed bag, I think, all season. For them to kind of get such a decisive win, I think will be really good for the team going forward into the next season, if they can kind of build on that in the last few games.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got 24 points already, London City, from their 20 games. And Tom, we know what Michelle Kang is like. I can't imagine that they're going to start next season with a similar squad to what they've got now. There's probably going to be a few players out the door that aren't playing much. There's probably going to be a few superstars coming in. I think we've seen a few, let's say, a few names that would be reaching out a little bit if they did come. As much as we know that Michelle Kang likes to spend the cash, I think even some of the players that have been touted might be a little bit too far for them. But
if Alexia Putellas has to live in Bromley, I would be so happy. I can't even tell you. Like, the idea of her trading a Barcelona flat for Bromley is just like it just fills me with joy. I wouldn't even care that she would go to a rival club. Like, I would just be so happy.
It would be funny. I mean, she's been to the stadium before. She knows the area. She knows the club. When me and Tom went to go watch London City against Brighton earlier in the season, I was a bit early for my trains. Went to go find a coffee shop, and the best one I could find was a Cafe Nero, which was all right. Well done, Cafe Nero in Bromley. But maybe Alexa would have known. Because she definitely would have responded if I got in contact. But yeah, not looking good for Leicester. So rather than it's sad. I don't like it because Leicester are my closest team. They're really the only ones I can drive to. So yeah, next season it's going to be me getting the train to everywhere because all of the teams that are going to be coming up or potentially coming up are all further away from me. So if Leicester could win that playoff just for my time spent in car/train, it'd be fantastic. Let's move on to Spurs. Yeah, think of me. Let's move on to Spurs 0, Manchester United 0. In the what happened in this game section on our running order, I've just written not much because not much happened, but Spurs were better in pretty much every metric in this game. They had more possession, they had double the amount of shots. And you know what? For a game where it wasn't that exciting, there were actually 32 shots in it, which I feel like I kind of missed. But the XG was 2.6 for Spurs to 0.5 for Man United. And then for both teams, the XG on target. In the what happened in this game section on our running order, I've just written not much because not much happened, but Spurs were better in pretty much every metric in this game. They had more possession, they had double the amount of shots. And you know what? For a game where it wasn't that exciting, there were actually 32 shots in it, which I feel like I kind of missed. But the XG was 2.6 for Spurs to 0.5 for Man United. And then for both teams, the XG on target was about half of that, which shows that the forwards weren't really firing. A stat that I saw online from Megan Faringa, which I thought was really good, was that Manchester United, well, not really good, but really interesting, let's say, Manchester United haven't been any of the top 5 in the WSL this season. So obviously can't beat themselves, but Spurs, City, Arsenal and Chelsea, Man United haven't been any of them. They do still have one more chance to do that, which is Chelsea away on the last day, which you feel they'll probably have to win that if they want to be getting any Champions League football next season. So, interesting from a Man United front. We know, Tom, we saw in the media as well, there was a bit of backlash on Man United because they didn't allow some of the media, mainly from The Athletic, to talk to them because of a, quote, negative story that was posted, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, which I don't know if anyone's read that. I don't think it was particularly negative. I think it was more just sort of factual. So I thought that was a bit weird. But there's a lot of people talking online about the sort of demeanour around Man United, and not just in this game, but in the after-match content as well, with the interviews and things like that, and just generally just sort of lacking in energy. And it's almost like, I don't know, do you think they're just a bit tired, or do you think they've lost that desire, or do you think people are just misinterpreting it?
Yeah, in regards to that, the article, I think it's it speaks to kind of a bit of a malaise around Manchester United at the moment, because I think the exact same writers have written extremely similar, if not more damning article about Arsenal and Chelsea this year. So it's just, it's just a fact that that's going to happen with at the top level. You're going to be under the microscope. And yeah, I agree with you, Sam. I didn't think it was particularly negative. Obviously, that nothing that was written was lies. It's just the truth. So it's a very poor move from them, especially when it's Megan Faringa, who's one of the best journalists around for women's football, and you want to be raising those people up and proving that you're not what the article says, supposedly, not kind of essentially proving negative aspects of that article to be correct. I think that in this game they lacked so much energy. They really did. I think Tottenham, it's still, the two sides were so contrasting because Tottenham had so much energy, it felt, and United just really didn't have any. And until Mallard came on, really, they didn't show much in attack at all. And I think they're extremely lucky not to lose this game. I think on another day they would have lost this game. And I think in terms of that top five stat you just mentioned as well there, Sam, I think the most damning part is that they haven't beaten Spurs this year, because that, in honesty, is a bit of a 6-pointer for them. Most years they do pick up those 6 points against Spurs, and like I think all the other teams around them have picked up 6 points. I think I'm correct, against Spurs, and it just kind of maybe starts to suggest that they're more in that second rather than being a top four. Are they going to be dragged into a bit of a Tottenham, London City Lionesses malaise next year? I think what would frustrate me more than anything is that it was so obvious what the problems were for Man United at the start of the season, and they haven't changed. They're the same problems now. And, we all could have predicted this, that they'd be lacking energy, a thin squad. They've obviously had injuries, but it doesn't take many injuries for this squad to be completely laid to waste, basically. And yeah, I think I wouldn't be feeling great if I was a United fan right now. I think Skinner obviously has another year left on his contract, and I think that United will give him the opportunity and that final year. Without Champions League football, maybe it'll suit them if they don't have Champions League football, which it looks increasingly likely that they're not going to. Maybe that will suit United next year, but I still can't see them breaking that barrier and winning the leagues right now, the way things are. And that doesn't all come down to Skinner. That comes down to a system at Man United as well, and those in charge at the very top, I think.
I missed something. Why didn't Mallard start this game? Because
I know maybe I didn't see any reason particularly. Yeah. Maybe it was just
for me. It's like she's been a standout player all season, so obviously, maybe it was some sort of load management. But she came on, she got 8 touches in the opposition box. I mean, this is the thing: is like there is so much talent there, but it's just completely being underutilized. And then players like Maya Letitia, who are incredible defenders, but they're having to play every minute and attack and defend, and that's not going to end well.
Leah Schüller, when you sign someone of her quality and start her up front in a game like this, you probably expect her to be having a decent number of touches in the opposition box. But
I think we did speak about this with Leah Schüller. Like last year, she didn't score a goal mid-season for like 5 months, and it can happen. She really feels like a massive confidence player for them, and that kind of speaks a lot towards the environment at Man United right now, or the feeling at Man United right now that she's not got that confidence.
I think the sort of general infrastructure and investment from Man United is always going to be what's going to be holding them back. We saw a few weeks ago when the numbers were released for last season about how much had been invested, and Man United was just so far behind the likes of Chelsea and Arsenal and City. And as good as you might get the odd season here and there, you can't consistently compete just because you're Man United and your men's team were good 20 years ago. That's not how it works. Especially on wages. I think it's called Soccernomics. It was a book that I read a few years ago, and there's one of the pieces in that was about how there's a real, not just talking about like a specific league or anything. They did loads of, this is more in the men's game, but loads of leagues, and basically how many points teams got compared to where they ranked in the league on wages. And it was almost like a perfect correlation of them. Basically, the more you spent on wages, the more points you got over the course of the season. And obviously there's little things that you try and get an edge, and just because you pay someone double the money, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get double the amount of points. But generally speaking, the more you pay a squad, the more money you spend on a squad, the better you're going to do. Man United aren't spending that much money. Yeah, they might have some really good players. You look at players like Maya Letitia, Frances Joyce, Rolfer, Miyazawa. These are some of the best players in the league in their positions, but there's not that many of them. There's not enough, where you've then got players like Simi Awujo having to start up front.
They're going to be behind London City. I don't know whether they'll be behind Tottenham, but they're definitely going to be behind London City. And then, we've seen that the investment matches a lot of the time matches where you finish in the table, and suddenly you're looking at Man United outside of the top 4, if that is the case.
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time saying woe is Man United. So let's touch on Spurs a little bit, because you mentioned there, Tom, as well, about them sort of Man United getting drawn into this sort of upper midfield, fourth, fifth, sixth. And I think this is probably what's going to happen next season between them, Spurs and London City. Because I think Man United have sort of reached their limit unless they invest more, which it doesn't seem like they're going to do. So Spurs are starting to invest more. London City are definitely investing more, and I think you're going to get this fourth, fifth, sixth. But Spurs, they're only 2 points off their record total in the WSL, and obviously they've still got 2 to go. So Izzy, they're sort of pretty much cemented 5th position next season, but with a maybe slightly average Man United compared to where they are now, and Spurs getting a bit better and London City getting a lot better, maybe some other teams coming up through as well. Do you think Spurs can sort of hold on to that top 5?
Yeah, I absolutely think they can. I think they've been excellent. I think they've got a real cohesion. And I think if they can, keep this up into next season, attract some talent over the summer, I actually think there's, they could look to sort of become regulars in the top 4. I actually don't see any reason why not. And I think they need to buy Micah Hamano. I think she's excellent, and I think she adds a lot to the team. Chelsea, she shouldn't stay at Chelsea. She needs to stay at Spurs, because I thought she was really good in the game against United. And, obviously they've got other players like Goetze and Tamberg who have come to the league this season, maybe still developing a bit more into the team, but they're going to become, I think, prolific goal scorers for the club. And I do see no reason why they can't, continue to build on this if they can just fix up those problems. I know we spoke on the pod before about sort of their big losses to top 3 teams. If they can really get that under their belt, I think sky's the limit for them, because they clearly have buy-in from the club. And also, if you're a men's Spurs fan and you're going down this season, there might be some more free days in the main stadium. Maybe everyone can kind of just tactically convert to the women's team, and they might be a bit happier.
I think she's a really good player. I think the only major thing that Spurs need to look at next season is just another centre back, because we see when Todd Kroger and Claire Hunt are playing together, fantastic, but they probably need someone else just as a bit of a better backup. I think they've kind of found Amanda Norden can do that, and then obviously, she got player of the match after the game. So that's fantastic.
To add on to that as well, I just wanted to mention Matilda Vinberg. I thought she was so good in this game, and it wasn't that long ago that we were thinking that she was out the door, and now she signed a new deal. They created 2 big chances, and she created both of them in this game for Tottenham. So she's not always one that gets a huge amount of praise with the Olivia Holtz and Senior Gopsets are kind of like the star performers, and she's a bit more of an understated one, but I thought she was so good in this game. Deserved her flowers.
Let's move on to the final game of the weekend that we saw, which was Liverpool 0, West Ham 1. The only goal of the game, a Cornelia Kapok's own goal, with a sort of weird back heel, strange finish that she probably could have left but didn't realise there was no player behind her. But unfortunate for her. She's been quite a mainstay in Liverpool's side. She played every game for them this season. But Liverpool had more possession in this game, but other than that, looking at the numbers, it was so even. I'll be honest, I started watching this game. It was a bit dull, so I sort of went in and out of it. I was doing other things around the house, keeping an eye on the game for anything interesting that happened, and there wasn't a lot of it. Both teams had about 0.8 XG. Both teams had about 0.3 expected goals on target. West Ham did win a lot more duels. I think from what I did see, I thought Vivacé had a particularly good game, but other than that, no one really stood out from either side in a good or bad way, not like in a ridiculous sense anyway. Both teams are pretty much safe now. Leicester would need to beat Arsenal, Chelsea and Everton for either of these teams to end up finishing 12th. So I think Liverpool and West Ham can be sort of safe in the fact they're going to have another season in the WSL. Actually, no, as I like, another player that did stand out a little bit was King Shemek. Izzy, obviously, I think it's best to give you the floor on this one to talk a little bit about her. She had 0.29 goals prevented, which I think was second or third of all WSL keepers this weekend, 44 touches and 29 accurate passes, including 6 long balls. And obviously keeping a clean sheet at the same time, which isn't something we've been able to say a lot with West Ham because they've still conceded the most goals in the WSL this season. But yeah, not away at a sort of rival in terms of league position.
Yeah, I know. I think she hasn't had as good a season maybe this season as she did last season, but I do, and maybe I would say this, but maybe I'm just the Tom Maher of Polish goalies, but no, I think she does get let down by the West Ham defence a bit. I think she's a really good goalie and she makes really good saves, but sometimes there's a lack of cohesion there, and obviously she needs to kind of, I think, direct the defence more and be sort of outspoken from the back. But I do think that a lot of the times, she gets a lot of goals fired at her, and she can't save every single one of them. But I think when you look at her performance as a whole, I think she's a really good goalkeeper that suits this league. And obviously she is an international goalkeeper as well, so she's playing every match. And yeah, we know she had a lot of shooting practice over the international break, so no more will be said on that. But yeah, I think she's really talented, and I don't think she often gets her flowers just because it's West Ham and they have let in a load of goals this season. But I do think she's very consistent for them. I will say that, and I don't think that can be sort of underestimated.
Absolutely, fair enough. Let's move on to Wednesday's games. Like we said, we were going to preview the Arsenal game against Leicester on Wednesday night. There's a lot of stats here as I was doing some research for this. And I'll be honest, Leicester fans, you might want to just mute the podcast for a bit. Arsenal have won all 9 meetings between these two teams, conceding just 4 goals. Arsenal at the moment have the second highest goals per game in the WSL at 2.2. Leicester have the lowest at 0.5. Arsenal currently on both the longest winning run at 5 and the longest unbeaten run at 12 in the WSL. Leicester are on the longest losing run and winless run for both, which is 8 games. In away games this season, 27 points available from 9 games. Leicester have picked up 2, which is 2 draws and 0 wins. But the one bit of positive thing for Leicester at the moment is actually 2. One is that they, again, scored, which they haven't done for a bit in a WSL game, but also that Arsenal just beaten Lyon 2-1 at the weekend, and they've got to go to Lyon this weekend coming on Saturday. So Leicester at home potentially isn't as big a game for Arsenal as it normally would be with the Champions League either side of it. So, Tom, do you think Leicester are going to be able to take a bit of hope from that, or is this just going to end up being an Arsenal thrashing?
There's always hope in this great league of ours. There's always hope. But Leicester fans have found it at a premium this season for sure. But I suppose the other bit of encouragement for them is that Arsenal are kind of a little bit limited in their rotations with, Beth Mead and Steph Catley aren't going to be available. It sounds like Chloe Kelly might be, but I doubt, and that means that Arsenal are going to have to play players who've worked so hard on the weekend and will have to work so hard again in the following weekend. I think if Arsenal start Leia Codina, then Leicester, that would be something that Leicester should look at. As much as I think Leia Codina is a great defender, she isn't fast. And Leicester do have some fast strikers. So that would be something they should look at. But that's me really trying my best to give them some hope, because I can't see. I thought they were absolutely terrible against London City Lionesses. I really did. I think going 1-0 up and then not being able to hold on to it. And then, because before I saw anything from that match, I listened to Passmore's post-match, and he was saying about how, we tried to push forward and we weren't able to, they caught us out. And then you look at the stats about them trying to push forward, is they only had 3 shots when they're trying to push forward. It's not Leicester. It's not Rick Passmore it's the whole situation at Leicester. But yeah, I can't see anything other than an Arsenal win. I think Arsenal are probably gonna. I think they might win 2-0 in this game.
2-0. Yeah, I think that's about right. I think I feel bad for Leicester, like you say, because they're like so many teams are in the women's game. You're reliant on the men's team finances, and if the men's team are all right, then your finances, you can still be self-sufficient. But if the men's team are not doing well, normally the women's team also suffers. Leicester, in particular, after it's been sort of widely reported that a lot of the men's team players don't have any relegation clauses in their contracts. And they not only got relegated from the Premier League last season, they're now being relegated from the Championship this season, going down to the third tier, League One, which then means that how can you actually see the club prioritising the women's team at all? Probably not. And this is what we're seeing now with the I think there's probably a bit about the general vibe around the place because, like we say, some of the players in this team are not bad footballers. You've got Shannon O'Brien, who is always a hassler, is always running around making a nuisance of herself in a good way. Livia McLaughlin, I think, is class. I've watched her a few times this season. Same with Sarah Mayling. She's been really good when I've seen her at Leicester. We know how good Ash Neville is defensively. Sari Keys had a really good season last season. Liv Clark has been performing well when she's had a chance and has been doing well with Wales as well. So, there's players in this team that are good. I think it's just a confidence thing, and it's why they're struggling. Arsenal are obviously going to rotate, but they don't have the same problem that teams like Man United do, where they haven't got the depth. Arsenal probably don't have as much depth as they want, mainly through things like injuries and just general unavailability that can't be helped. But there's still going to be enough to give sort of the best players, people like Mariona Caldente and Alessia Russo, you could probably rest both of them for this game and still comfortably come out with a win and a clean sheet, you would say, for Arsenal. And yeah, I'm going to go for a 3-0 win in this one. Izzy, I'm assuming you think it's going to be 2-1.
Yeah, sort of. No, I'm going to go 2-0 as well. I agree with Tom. I think a bit of resting, but not too much. And I think a couple of goals and that'll do them nicely.
That's all the WSL stuff. Let's move on to WSL2. Right, I've got a fair bit to go through here, so stay with me. Okay, so the WSL2 finishes this Saturday. 21 games played so far. The 22nd is this week. Charlton are on 42 points. Birmingham are on 41. Crystal Palace are on 41. Charlton and Birmingham play each other this weekend. Top two teams go up automatically. The third team goes into a playoff against the 12th place team, the WSL, most likely Leicester, as we've just touched on. The permutations for this is basically that because two of the teams are playing against each other, Crystal Palace are playing an already relegated Portsmouth, any of the three teams could feasibly finish third and have to go through the playoff. Any of the three teams could feasibly win the league. So if Charlton win, they're top. If they draw, they're promoted and could still be top. If they lose, they'll be third unless Palace also lose. If Birmingham win, they're promoted and most likely top. If Birmingham draw, they'll be third unless Palace fail to win. And if they lose, they'll be third unless Palace also lose, which obviously, like we said, is unlikely. Palace, however, if they win, they're definitely promoted. They know that. And they'll only be top if the other game is a draw. If they draw against Portsmouth, they'll definitely be promoted, but only if the other game isn't a draw. And if there is a draw, then they'll be third. And if they lose, they're third unless Charlton beat Birmingham by 8 goals more than Palace lose by. Does that? Well, thankfully, I've already had a word with producer Felicity because I wrote that out earlier and I thought if someone's listening to that, that's going to be difficult to follow. So hopefully you've watched that on YouTube or on Spotify or wherever you get your pods, because I think Felicity's put some nice graphics on the screen for you to make a bit more sense out of it. But it's an exciting weekend. I've already put it in my calendar. Charlton against Birmingham. I'm going to because I think the Arsenal second leg against Lyon kicks off at 2. This game kicks off at 3. So there is going to be about 45 minutes where I'm going to be double screening, which I don't really like doing, but I like it more than Izzy does. We know that. But Tom, I know because we did a pod, me and you, about the WSL2. I can't remember if it was Christmas or stuff. I think it might have been Christmas time we did it. And yeah, I as much as, I thought the second place might be a bit competitive. I thought at the time Charlton were just running away with it. And then as of a week or two ago, I was like, oh, they're going to finish second, maybe even third. And now I'm like, oh, they're back in contention to win it. And yeah, how do you see this going? Because I think most people are agreeing that Palace are almost certainly going to win at home against Portsmouth, but Charlton against Birmingham on the final day, Birmingham again needing a win to get promoted. What's going to happen?
Well, I have a couple of Portsmouth fan friends who were absolutely convinced that they were that they wouldn't win this game before they were confirmed as relegated. Now they're like, we're definitely going to beat Palace. So now that there's nothing riding on it, Megan Hornby's going to score a hattie, and Palace are going to be in the relegation promotion playoff. But no, I do think Palace will win, and I think they'll go up. And what a job Joe Potter's done there. We did talk about that, I think, in that we not to give us too much credit, Sam, but we did predict that Palace would keep on rising up the table. So they've done so well. And like, obviously Birmingham and Charlton have dropped a couple of clangers, like Charlton losing at home against Portsmouth at the Valley. And then Birmingham get absolutely hammered by Ipswich on the weekend, which was an absolutely stunning result. I mean, this is why you have to watch the WSL2. It makes no sense. So I could talk about this for like another half an hour and it will still just be nothing like what I said. I think that Charlton-Birmingham game is going to be great. And obviously the same thing as last season. It's really interesting from a psychological point of view from Birmingham, given that they had the exact same thing last season against London City Lionesses, where if they drew, they wouldn't go up and they had to win. And then they ended up drawing. This time they're away from home, backs against the wall. Amy Merrick's done a great job there with Hope Powell helping out as I think she's technical director. So they're a really exciting team too. I think Charlton have been really defensively solid, and that's going to be really important in this game. I think that it'll be a 1-1 draw, and I think that Charlton and Palace will go up. Palace will win the title, and Birmingham will go into that relegation promotion playoff against Leicester. Although the thing that I would say about that relegation promotion playoff, something that gives Leicester a bit of an advantage, is that obviously the last day of the season is on the 2nd for the WSL2 teams, whereas like Leicester's last day of the season is the 17th of May, and then the 23rd is the relegation promotion playoff. So I don't think that helps the WSL2 teams. It's something they need to figure out in the future if this is going to become a regular thing, because it's not really fair for them to not play a competitive fixture for almost 3 weeks.
A 3-week break is normally a bit of a negative thing, but I think I was listening to, back onto the men's football thing. I was listening to an interview with the Bodø Glimt, I think he's sporting director, and he was talking about the fact that their Champions League run was like out of season for them. And actually it really helped them because they didn't have anything getting in the way. They didn't have any rearranged games. They didn't have any long trips that they didn't want in the league. They just knew that there were these games coming up and this is how we're going to prepare for it. Whether a WSL2 team has the same resources as Bodø Glimt, who knows? Probably not. But I'm looking forward to the pods. Charlie Parks I've heard her talk before about, she's adamant. She's going to be so keen for Palace to not finish third, because Palace are a bit of a bogey team for Leicester. I think they took points off Leicester last season. They beat them 3-0 in the Cup earlier this season. And they're the team in form. I was just looking at the form table. Charlton have picked up 1 point in their last 3 games. Birmingham obviously lost last time out. So they don't want to play Palace. They want to play one of the other two. But let's see how it goes. If you want to watch it, I'm certainly going to be watching it from home. All the games in the WSL2 this weekend are on YouTube, as they usually are. So 3:00 on Saturday, UK time. Check it out. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be really important. And I'm hoping it's going to be one of those where you watch the league table as it goes throughout the game. So exciting stuff. Right, let's move on to Aerial Fantasy. Game week 20 so far, because obviously we've still got the game on Wednesday still to go. But so far at the moment, Tom, bad news. Jacob's actually overtaken you in the Decoding WSL League. He is now the one that we've got of us 4. Jacob's now top. He's got 40 points so far this week. Tom, you're still second with 29. I've got 42 this week, which I was pretty proud of. Most of that is from Lucia Corrales. Putting someone in because I didn't have much money left, and she ended up being my top scorer. And then Izzy's got 30. Tom, I will say though, although Jacob's gone ahead of you, you two have got the same 3 Arsenal players left to play, but you've got Alessia Russo captained and he doesn't. So a big game from her and you could be plain sailing, which would be good for me as well, she's my captain as well. I'm going to put Caldente in next week. I'm going to take Sunday Baltimore out, put Caldente in, and I haven't decided what my other transfer is going to be yet, but I'll come to that in the preview pod. The Decoding the WSL League, obviously, there's not many games left to go with it. Stanley is still top in this league and still first overall. 54 points so far this game week. Although Tom Peace's team, the Giraffe, the Kelly, and the Mead are closing the gap. They're now just 16 points behind Stanley, so it's getting tight at the top with just sort of 2 and a bit game weeks to go. Reminder, there is a WSL shirt of your choice or 2 tickets to a WSL game next season for whoever wins. Whoever wins, I will say, you need to get in touch because I have no way in getting in contact with you. You need to get in contact with us. Otherwise, I can't give you a prize. So if you know Stan or if you know Tom, tell them to tell the pod if they win. The best game week 20 score so far is actually the team that's third in the Decoding the WSL League. 69 points so far. It's Emil Björn's team called Cuthbert and Ernie, which I quite liked. Amazingly, they're the top scoring team in the Decoding the WSL League. They captained Rebecca Knack, who got 1 point, double to 2. So it's very much the rest of their team that's taking sort of getting all the points in. They've got Madison Haley, who still, by the way, when I looked at it this morning, only has 1.52% of people picking her, so she's still a visionary. Ellie Carpenter got 9, so did Shannon O'Brien and Kinga Shemek, and then Freya Godfrey and Bunny Shaw got 6 points each, and they still have Leia Cadena, who may well play because of a rotated team, Mariona Caldente and Alessia Russo still to play. So Emil Björn, we might see moving up even above third. It might be a 3-horse race. It might be just like WSL2. That is pretty much all we've got time for your review show. Before we go, I do want to just give Tom a little chance to plug a piece because you've also now been writing for WSL Football. You did a good piece this week on Joy Ralph, didn't you?
Yeah, they obviously like the podcast, I think. But I did a piece on Joy Ralph, a young striker for Sheffield United. We followed her career for a long time. Obviously, she's an Ireland youth international, really exciting player. Poor Joy, after I released the article, Sheffield United announced she was out for the rest of the season, basically a couple of hours later, poor thing. So hopefully we wish her all the best in her rehabilitation, that she comes back fit and firing for next season. But thank you, Sam. Yeah, really exciting. You can see that on the WSL site or the WSL app.
But that is all we've got time for. So that is your Game Week 20 review. Thank you very much for tuning in. There'll be a game of Know Your Stat coming your way. It's me against Izzy as Tom is hosting. And then, a Game Week 21 preview will be coming your way later in the week as well. But for now, that's all. So thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, viewer. And we'll see you at the next one.